What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a story that's going to absolutely blow your mind. It's got a twist ending that's so insane, you're probably not going to see it coming even though I'm going to drop some hints throughout the story. Trust me, this one will keep you on the edge of your seat. But before we dive into this crazy true story, if you love mysterious tales and dark stories that'll give you chills, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We drop new content every single week, and you don't want to miss out on these wild stories. Alright, let's get into today's absolutely mind-bending story. It was the evening of June 12, 2012, and two sisters from Boston were about to check into what would become the most infamous hotel room in American true crime history. 25-year-old Nicole Brennan opened the door to their beachfront hotel room in Miami Beach, Florida. Her younger sister, 20-year-old Ashley, wheeled in their suitcases behind her. These two college students from Massachusetts had been living it up on spring break for the past 3 weeks. They'd been island hopping through the Caribbean, and now they'd arrived in Miami for the final leg of their month-long vacation before heading back to Boston. Nicole was absolutely exhausted. 3 weeks of non-stop partying and traveling had really caught up with her. All she wanted to do was collapse on that hotel bed and just relax in the air conditioning for a while. But Nicole was also a pretty experienced traveler by this point, and she knew you always had to check your hotel room before settling in. So she went over to her bed and pulled back the sheets to make sure everything was clean. No bed bugs, no dirty linens, you know the drill. The sheets looked absolutely pristine. The room felt super nice and clean. So Nicole just flopped down on the bed and started enjoying that cool AC air. Meanwhile, Ashley, who was probably just as tired as her sister, didn't lay down at all. Instead, she went straight into the bathroom and started getting ready for their night out. See, while the girls had been partying in the Caribbean, they'd met these two really cool guys from California. They'd all hit it off really well, and wouldn't you know it, these guys' travel plans had them coming to Miami Beach on the exact same day as the sisters. So the plan was to meet up with these two California guys down at the beach that night and continue the good times in Miami. Now, Nicole was definitely looking forward to seeing these guys again, but she also felt a little bit of responsibility as the older sister. Ashley was 5 years younger and maybe a bit more trusting than Nicole was. Plus, when they'd planned this trip, their parents back in Boston had been really worried about two young women traveling alone. Nicole had basically promised her parents, "Don't worry, I'm the big sister. I'll keep an eye on Ashley. She'll be safe with me." So as Nicole's lying there and Ashley's getting ready, Nicole decides to call their parents back home. She'd been checking in regularly throughout the trip to keep them from worrying too much. But just as Nicole was about to dial, Ashley poked her head out of the bathroom and said, "Wait, stop. Remember the time difference, it's like 2 a.m. back home right now. You're gonna wake them up, and they're gonna have a million questions about why you're calling so late. Plus, if you tell them we're going out with these guys tonight, they're just going to worry even more." Nicole paused and realized Ashley was totally right. It was a terrible time to call, and honestly, she wasn't sure what she'd even tell their parents about these California guys without making them freak out. So Nicole put her phone down and decided to just let loose and enjoy their last night of vacation. She got up and joined Ashley in the bathroom to get ready for what would turn out to be the most tragic night of their lives. A little later, Nicole and Ashley left their hotel and headed down to the beach. Sure enough, there were the two California guys waiting for them right outside this popular beachfront bar. But as the girls got closer, they noticed something weird. Each guy was holding these massive bucket-like containers. They looked almost like those big sand buckets kids use at the beach, except these were filled to the brim with ice and some kind of liquid. As they walked up, the girls were like, "Hey, what are those?" The guys grinned and said, "These are these amazing cocktails you can only get here in Miami. They're like a local specialty." "What's in them?" Nicole asked, always being the more cautious one. The guys just looked at each other and laughed. "We don't know exactly, but trust us. They taste incredible and they'll make you feel amazing." Now, Nicole hesitated. She wasn't about to just start drinking some mystery cocktail. But Ashley? She was totally sold. She reached forward, grabbed one of the buckets, and just started chugging it down. Nicole was like, "Ashley, come on. We don't even know what that is." But after a few big gulps, Ashley lowered the bucket, grinned at her sister and said, "This tastes amazing. You've got to try it, Nicole. Just loosen up a little." Nicole looked around the beach and realized that tons of other people had these same bucket drinks. It wasn't just their guys. This seemed to be a normal thing here. So she figured, okay, if everyone's drinking them and the guys are drinking them too, it's probably fine. She reached over, took the other bucket, and had a big sip. Several hours later, well after the sun had gone down, all four of them were having an absolute blast. They'd been dancing outside the beach bar, swimming in the ocean, eating local food, and losing count of how many of these bucket drinks they'd all shared. By this point, Nicole's vision was pretty blurry and she was stumbling around a bit. Ashley was in the same condition, along with both of the California guys. They were all clearly pretty drunk, but they were having the time of their lives. Around 1 a.m., Nicole's guy leaned over and said, "Hey, want to head back to your hotel room?" Nicole was like, "Yeah, let's go back. But hold on. I want to check with Ashley first." She stumbled over to her sister, who was in the middle of this elaborate dance routine with her guy, and tapped her on the shoulder. "Hey, we're going back to the hotel. Do you want to come with us?" Ashley spun around, all smiles, and said, "No way. I'm having way too much fun. We're going to keep dancing. You guys should stay too." "Are you sure?" Nicole asked. "We're heading back now." "Yeah, we'll see you back at the hotel soon," Ashley said, and immediately went back to dancing. Now, normally, Nicole and Ashley never separated when they were out drinking, especially late at night in an unfamiliar place. It went against everything they'd promised their parents. But everything seemed so safe and fun, and these guys really did seem trustworthy. So Nicole said goodbye to her sister and headed back to the hotel with her guy, while Ashley kept dancing on the beach with hers. It would be the last time Nicole and Ashley would ever speak to each other. 3 days later, on the evening of June 15th, a member of the housekeeping staff at the Miami Beach Hotel walked up to the sisters' room and knocked on the door. For the past 2 days, housekeeping hadn't seen anyone come in or out of this room, and they really needed to get in there to clean it. When there was no response, just like the previous 2 days, the staff member decided they had to use their master key and go in. They knocked one more time, called out "housekeeping," and when they got silence, they unlocked the door and stepped inside. Seconds later, that staff member was literally running out of the room screaming for help. 8:09 p.m. that night, a team of Miami Beach police officers led by Detective Ray Castellanos arrived at the hotel room. Detective Castellanos was a veteran cop who'd seen it all, and he'd already been briefed on what was waiting inside. When they walked in, they found both Nicole and Ashley lying in their respective beds, tucked under their sheets, perfectly still, and completely surrounded by vomit. Detective Castellanos estimated the two sisters had been dead for somewhere between 12 and 20 hours. His first thought was alcohol poisoning. That would explain the vomit, and these were clearly tourists who'd probably been partying hard. But when he looked more closely at the bodies, he noticed something that didn't make sense. There was dried blood on both girls' gums and under their fingernails. That wasn't consistent with alcohol poisoning. Maybe someone had attacked them? But after checking the entire hotel room, there was absolutely no sign of a struggle or break-in. Everything looked totally normal. Detective Castellanos and his team were completely stumped. They needed to do full autopsies and toxicology reports to figure out what had actually killed these two young women. While they waited for those test results, Detective Castellanos focused on figuring out what Nicole and Ashley had been doing in their final hours. After interviewing hotel staff, he learned that the sisters were visiting from Boston, and on their first night in Miami, they'd gone out early in the evening. Then one of them, Nicole, had returned to the hotel with an unidentified man at 1 a.m. At 4 a.m., Ashley had also returned with a different unidentified man. Security footage confirmed that both unidentified men had stayed in the hotel room until 6 a.m., when they left together. The two sisters were presumably left alone in the room after that. The police put out a public announcement about the deaths and asked for help identifying these two men, since they were clearly the last people to see the sisters alive. It didn't take long to learn that the men were from California, but unfortunately, they'd already flown back home. Detective Castellanos had to work with law enforcement in California to track them down and interview them. About a week later, Castellanos got a call from the California police. They'd found and interviewed both men. When the California cops told them that Nicole and Ashley had died, both guys seemed genuinely shocked and devastated. When asked why they'd left Miami so quickly, they explained they'd had those flights booked in advance. There was nothing suspicious about their departure. But here's what was really interesting. Both men admitted that for the 2 days after their night with the sisters, they'd been incredibly sick. They'd been stuck in bed, vomiting, feeling absolutely terrible. They had no idea what had made them so sick, but they'd been in really bad shape. This made Detective Castellanos think that maybe all 4 of them had gotten some kind of food poisoning or illness, and the guys had survived it while the sisters hadn't. When the autopsy and toxicology reports came back, Detective Castellanos discovered something absolutely mind-blowing. Those bucket drinks that everyone had been drinking, they were called Miami Madness cocktails, and they were a local specialty that you really couldn't get anywhere else in the country. And there was a very good reason why they weren't popular outside of South Florida. These drinks were incredibly dangerous. There was no regular alcohol in these buckets. Instead, they contained crushed-up prescription pills, cough syrup, energy drinks, and in some cases, pesticide. Specifically, DEET, the main ingredient in bug spray. The toxicology reports showed that both Nicole and Ashley had DEET in their systems from these cocktails. But here's the thing that puzzled Detective Castellanos. Even though these drinks were dangerous, people in Miami didn't just drop dead from drinking them regularly. They were risky, sure, but not usually lethal. So Castellanos figured that whoever had mixed this particular batch must have accidentally put way too much DEET in the drinks. The sisters had gotten a bad batch, while the California guys had survived the same poisoning but gotten really sick from it. Case closed, right? Accidental poisoning from badly mixed cocktails. 9 days after the sisters died, their bodies were sent back to Boston along with the Miami police's official finding: accidental DEET poisoning from contaminated cocktails. But when Nicole and Ashley's remains arrived in Boston, they didn't go straight to their family. Instead, they went to Dr. Sarah Mitchell, one of the leading medical examiners in Massachusetts. The girls' parents were absolutely furious. They'd found out about their daughter's deaths through the news media. The Miami police hadn't even contacted them directly until after their investigation was finished. The parents felt like the whole thing was way too convenient. Their daughters drink some local cocktails that are apparently served at beach bars all the time, and whoops, they just happened to get a bad batch that killed them, while the guys they were with drank the same thing and survived just because. It didn't add up. The parents suspected either lazy police work or possibly even a cover-up to protect Miami's tourism industry. They demanded that Massachusetts do their own independent investigation. Dr. Mitchell performed her own autopsy on both sisters and confirmed that yes, there was DEET in their systems. But here's the crucial detail. There wasn't nearly enough DEET to kill them. So while they had definitely consumed those dangerous cocktails, that's not what had actually killed them. But Dr. Mitchell didn't find any other poisonous substances in their bodies either. She was completely stumped until she started doing deeper research into similar tourist deaths. And what she found absolutely horrified her. Dr. Mitchell discovered that Nicole and Ashley were far from the first tourists to die this way in Florida. Between 2009 and 2015, at least 20 tourists had been found dead under very similar circumstances in hotels across South Florida. Dr. Mitchell believed all these people, including Nicole and Ashley, had been poisoned by something that caused internal bleeding, which would explain the blood under their fingernails and on their gums, but metabolized so quickly that it couldn't be detected after death. And she figured out exactly what it was. Remember how Nicole had pulled back the sheets when they first got to the hotel room to check for bed bugs? The sheets looked perfectly clean because they had just been treated for bed bugs. But here's the terrifying truth. This hotel, along with many others in South Florida, had been treating their bedding for bed bugs by spraying the sheets with pesticide, specifically phosphine gas. This is completely illegal. You cannot spray bed sheets with pesticide. But these hotels were doing it anyway because it was cheap and effective at killing bugs. The problem? Phosphine gas is also highly toxic to humans. Based on all the evidence, here's what Dr. Mitchell believes actually happened. When Nicole, Ashley, and the 2 California guys came back to the hotel room that night, they all climbed into those beds that had been illegally treated with phosphine gas. The poison was soaking through their skin and they were breathing it in, but they had no idea. They probably just thought they were tired and maybe a little hungover from the cocktails. The two guys left at 6 a.m. after being exposed to the gas for about 2 hours. They went back to their own hotel, and over the next couple of days they got incredibly sick from the poisoning, but not enough to kill them. But Nicole and Ashley? They never left those beds. They stayed in those poison-soaked sheets all night long, their bodies continuously absorbing more and more of this deadly chemical until their systems just couldn't handle it anymore. They died from phosphine gas poisoning, not from the cocktails they'd been drinking. Despite Dr. Mitchell's findings proving that these hotels were illegally using deadly pesticides on their bedding, something that had killed at least 20 tourists, nobody has ever been held accountable for Nicole and Ashley's deaths. The hotels involved continue to operate. No charges were ever filed. The Miami police still officially list the cause of death as accidental deep poisoning from contaminated cocktails. And here's the most terrifying part. This practice of illegally treating hotel bedding with pesticide isn't limited to Florida. Dr. Mitchell believes it's happening at budget hotels and resorts around the world, and tourists continue to die from it while their deaths get blamed on alcohol poisoning, drug overdoses, or mysterious illnesses. The next time you check into a hotel room, you might want to think twice before lying down on those freshly cleaned sheets. So there you have it, one of the most disturbing cover-ups in recent American history. Two sisters went on vacation and ended up dead because hotels were illegally poisoning their bedding to save money on pest control. What makes this story even more heartbreaking is that Nicole was trying so hard to be the responsible older sister, just like she'd promised her parents. But there was no way she could have protected Ashley from something this sinister and hidden. This case shows just how dangerous it can be when businesses prioritize profits over customer safety, and when local authorities are more concerned with protecting tourism than finding the truth. What do you think about this case? Have you ever had a weird experience at a hotel that made you wonder what was really going on behind the scenes? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story freaked you out as much as it did me, make sure to check out this other video about mysterious hotel deaths. I promise it'll give you even more reasons to be careful when you travel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.